Hello everybody. I'm very excited for what we're looking at in today's video. We're going to be unboxing and looking at something brand new I bought for myself, a brand new UPS. It's made by CyberPower. It's the model CP1500PFCLCD. If you follow me on Mastodon, the Maritime Girl at tech.lgbt, you know that I've been eyeing one of these for at least a couple of months now. Well, you know that I'm kind of a fan of UPSs anyway. We've looked at several over just the past few months, but I also use one to do actual work outside of being a pretty toy to look at for YouTube. I've been using this guy for quite a while now, this Eaton Powerware. This thing's almost 20 years old. It's a 1500 volt amp UPS, and I use it for my main computer and associated peripherals. And this guy does a great job. It's a good, very heavily built, very high quality UPS. However, it's technically not mine. It belongs to the TV station, and I've just been borrowing it because we're not using it anywhere. And we actually do have a place we could use this now, so I do need/want to give this back. But also, I've kind of grown tired of using it because it's got a fan in it, and right now that fan's pretty much idling. It's very quiet. But once the load on this thing gets past about 50–60%, the fans ramp up to full speed, and it is noisy, and then it will never go back to idle. Even if the load completely drops to nothing, the fans will not go back to idle. The only thing that resets them back to idle is if there's a power outage, and that's why they're idle right now. We've had a string of power outages recently. Which comes to the third reason I want to replace this, is because the several power outages we've had recently, at least a couple of them ended with the UPS dying and my main PC just shutting down ungracefully because this thing doesn't communicate with the computer. So I wanted a new UPS that it was going to be quiet and that could communicate with the computer and hibernate it when the power goes out. At least that's my justification for buying one of these things. Obviously I could make do with what I have, but I've just wanted one of these for a long time. So this is a 1500 volt amp, 1000 watt pure sine wave UPS. I did go all out. I bought a full size sine wave UPS. This thing cost me $280 Canadian plus tax. So it's not cheap, but these CyberPower UPSs, they're pretty well regarded. And some people say they're actually better than APC. Of course, APC at one point in time were the gold standard in UPSs. But since they were bought out by Schneider Electric, they don't quite have the status as they used to. Most people, I think, say that they're just not as well built as they used to be, and a lot of people say that these CyberPower units are certainly a better value, but also they're probably just better built than a lot of the APC units. That might or might not be true. But at any rate, they are well-regarded units, and I decided I wanted one. So we're going to take a look at them. We're going to unbox this thing. And we are going to plug it in and check out the features it has. We'll test it, of course. We will put a load on it and we'll cut the power and test it. And yeah, I'm very excited. So let me open this box and dig it all out, and then we'll take a look. I guess we should read the propaganda on the box first. Power protection for computers and workstations that use active power factor correction power supplies. That's basically anything with an 80 plus power supply. I'm not sure if it's all 80 plus power supplies or if it's 80 plus gold, but apparently some, if not all, 80 plus power supplies, specifically ones that have this active power factor correction, they can have issues with modified sine wave UPSs. And modified sine wave UPSs are still a thing. All the most affordable UPSs are modified sine wave, and for most stuff, modified sine wave is perfectly fine. But apparently there are some fancier computer power supplies, possibly like the one I have in my main PC, that do not like modified sine wave power. So I figured go all out, go with pure sine wave, never have to worry about whether something I have's gonna function properly on it or not. Also, I would not be surprised if pure sine wave UPSs are just better built than modified sine wave UPSs. I think generally where they cost a lot more, there's probably just better components in them. I would hope anyway. Green power UPS energy saving technology. No idea what that could mean. PowerPanel management software. I'm quite interested to see what this is and if it's hopefully better than APC's PowerShoot software. Multifunction LCD panel with color display. Oh yes, that was kind of one of the things. One of the reasons that I bought this. Automatic voltage regulation, which is good. All decent UPSs have this. It adjusts it basically. If there's not a power outage, but the voltage is outside of a specified range, it will, I don't think it kicks over. Yeah, I think it kicks over into its inverter, but the inverter is still being powered by the mains power and not the battery. And that's just so you are getting power with the proper voltage and not voltage that could be too low or too high. Back a few months back when we had a series of hurricane-like storms here, a high voltage power line fell off of a telephone pole, and I was at work, and I took one of our cameras and I got footage of it arcing and sparking on the ground, and eventually it made some very bright, very loud arcs until the fuse finally blew. While that high voltage power line was having a fit on the ground, the mains voltage coming into the building was all over the place, including surging to higher than normal. And all of our multiple UPSs, we have a bunch of older APC smart UPSs, they all kicked on their AVRs, and I credit all those UPSs for none of our equipment at the station being destroyed by these voltage surges and brownouts and everything else. They did a fantastic job. So the fact that this guy's got a voltage regulator in it, that's good too. Not every UPS has that. It's got 12 outlets. 6 of them go to the battery backup. The other 6 are just for surge protection. I wonder if the other 6 work for the AVR too. I don't know. We'll have to see if that's mentioned in the manual. And it's got a modular jack on it for protecting your network connection. Now it says modem, DSL, and broadband. Well, modem and DSL would be RJ11. Broadband would be RJ45, so not really sure. I think it's got RJ45s on it. It's got USB ports, so you can charge your phone off of it, including when it's running off the inverter. I believe it has a USB-A and a USB-C port. And it's got an expansion slot in it, so you can install an expansion card for SNMP remote monitoring, which is very cool. And it's got a 3-year warranty and I believe $500,000 of equipment protection insurance. I wonder if people have ever had to actually use that and whether they actually pay out for stuff like that. But supposedly, this has it. Yep. And nothing there. Okay. Let me open this up and then we'll come back. Well, there it is. The Tower of Power. It's quite a dense thing. It weighs 26 pounds according to the box. Of course, it's already got batteries in it. And another nice thing about this compared to the Eaton Powerware that I've been using is this uses just 2 of the standard 7 amp hour batteries versus 4 batteries in the powerware. So not quite as expensive to replace the batteries in these. You know, it's funny. People always talk about UPSs, and so many people say, man, UPSs are just throwaway devices because buying new batteries for them costs almost as much as buying a new UPS. That's not true whatsoever. Maybe if you buy the battery straight from CyberPower or APC or whatever, they probably do charge a premium for batteries. But that's not how you should be buying batteries. DigiKey sells the 7 amp hour batteries for, I think, here in Canada, I think they're $35 a piece. So $70 for a new set of batteries for this thing. And it's going to be even cheaper if you're in the US. That's the way to buy batteries. Don't buy them from the, like, people probably don't know that they're just standard size batteries that everything uses that needs a SLA battery. But yeah, no, it's not like a computer. It's not like an HP printer, right? No, the batteries are quite affordable to purchase. But this comes with them, and it only takes 2 of them instead of 4, which is nice. Now, obviously, that means the runtime's not going to be quite as long as something like the PowerWare. Actually, at full load, this is rated to run a full load for 2.5 minutes, which is actually half of what like APC, at least historically, has designed all of their UPSs to run for 5 minutes at a full load. They designed them with just enough battery power to run them for 5 minutes, but CyberPower didn't do the same thing. It's 2.5 minutes for this guy, but then at half load, I think it's like 10 minutes. So obviously it's a little more efficient with a bit of a lighter load. So, I happen to have it already plugged in. I'm going to actually first, let's pull off its screen protector here. Where do we start? Oh, there it is. So we've got some buttons you can see. We've got the USB ports. The USB ports supply a combined total of 3.1 amps. I don't think the USB-C is quick charge compatible, but we'll have to test that. And then the display, which we'll see in a second, tilts up like that. So let's turn the power on for this thing. No life from it, which I believe is normal. So I'm going to turn it on. Bit of a loud buzzer on it, and there it is. This is my first time seeing this. That is a pretty display, and yeah, that's one of the things that kind of drew me to this UPS versus others, is this color LCD display. Is it important whatsoever to the function of the unit? No. Am I neurodivergent and attracted to colorful displays? Yes. So there we go. It already says there's a full battery. And you can see we've got online. So the little energy saving icon, I think it just means it's not running on its inverter and it's not running on the AVR. If it had to run on the AVR, I believe that light turns off. But it really, that indicator doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. It's got a load meter. And we're taking a look at our input voltage, and it agrees with the kilowatt. Ah yes, and the display turns off, but I believe I can force it to be on all the time by doing that. And I think it's on all the time now. Now if I hit display, it goes through different data. Yeah, our output voltage, output frequency, our current watt load, our volt amp load, our watt load expressed as a percentage of the UPS's capacity, and same for volt amps. And oh, that's the battery charge percentage. Very good. And our estimated runtime based on the current load and I assume battery state of charge. So on a really light load, this thing might run for 3 hours. And this is cool. It's got an event counter, the number of times the power has gone out since the event counter was last reset. That's pretty cool. Excellent. Well, mercy sakes, that's great. Now, let's just cut power right now. Let's listen to this thing. It's on battery. It's got a little fan in it. It should freak out and beep. Yes, it does. And it's got a mute function. Now, I'm just going to turn power back on. There we go. And there's a mute function. So there it is. And now it's muted. And so what that should mean is that it will not beep. At the very least, it won't beep when the power goes out. I'm hoping that it also doesn't beep when the battery dies. But I'll cut power again. There we go. It's got a little fan in it. It's very quiet. And it makes just the slightest bit of hum. Where's the fan vent? I don't know where the fan vent's out of. There's the outlets on it. Let's turn power back on. So with power back on, the fan slows down a bit. There's the expansion port. And it almost looks to me like these jacks are designed to accept multiple types of, well, I was going to say multiple types of modular jacks, but there it says do not connect to your telephone line. So it certainly isn't for telephone. It's got a serial port. I wonder if that's an actual RS-232 port or if it's like other UPSs where it's just the pins are assigned to different functions and one pin goes high when it's on battery power, another pin goes high if there's so many minutes of battery life remaining, another pin goes high if there's a fault, stuff like that. Or is it actually doing true RS-232 communication? We don't have a wiring fault, that's good. And we've got a USB-B port, and it did come with a USB-B cable. I need more of those like a hole in the head. And yeah, half the outlets are for battery and the other half are just for surge, and it's also got a circuit breaker. I don't know. Oh, I think the fan vents out of right there. Well, cool. What a neat little machine. Now I've got to hook a load to it. So let me find some loads and I'll come back. I'm back. I've got a few things plugged in. My overhead light is plugged in. This fluorescent light has a magnetic ballast. It uses about 40 watts or 60 volt amps of power. And I've got my 100 watt halogen studio light that helps light this place up for these videos. I've got that plugged in. You can see we're on the first bar of the current load, and if we look at the watt output, 151 watts, so that's pretty accurate. And it's also reading 151 volt amps. That is not accurate. That should be reading 10 or 20 volt amps more because of the fluorescent light. So interesting. Maybe it's just not enough of a difference to matter. And it has estimated runtime 46 minutes. Ah, yes. 2. Why is it registered 2 events? Oh, did I power it off twice? I must have cut power to it twice. Now I also have this 300 watt incandescent bulb, or it'll actually probably be closer to 270 watts. So I'll turn that on. Oof, that's bright. And we've lit up the second bar on the load meter. 396 watts. 396 volt amps. 39% load. Estimated runtime, 15 minutes. Okay, let's cut power. So there was a bit of a switch, a bit of a dip in the power because of the switch. The lights briefly flashed. But other than that, it was a clean switch. Fans running. the event counter incremented. And let's put it on input voltage. I'll turn mains power back on. There we go. I'm going to cut power again. We'll look at the light here. Yeah, a brief flash in power, but not bad. And we're on again. There we go. There's also a brief flash in power when it switched back to mains power, but not bad at all. So, more affordable consumer-grade UPSs like this one are what's called a line interactive UPS, or sometimes called a standby UPS. And what that means is when AC power, when mains power is present, the load connected to the UPS is being directly powered by the mains power. The UPS is bypassed, the inverter's bypassed, it's all out of circuit, and the load's just being directly powered by the mains power. When the power goes out, a relay inside the UPS switches the load from being powered directly by the mains to being powered by the inverter. And because there's a physical relay that has to latch from one position to another position, there is a small amount of transfer time with the switch from mains power to the inverter. And for 99% of equipment, this little switch is no problem at all. Because power supplies in computers, for example, they have capacitors in them that are able to keep the computer running for maybe a tenth of a second without power. And that's long enough for the UPS to switch that relay over from mains power to not only switch the relay from mains power to the inverter, but detect that the power's gone out and then switch the relay from mains power to the inverter. And that's a line interactive UPS. Now, very high-end UPSs, like this Eaton Powerware, that you'd find more in a commercial environment and not in a home environment, they are what is called a double conversion UPS, or sometimes called an online UPS. And what that means is this UPS is actually powering the load with its inverter all the time. Everything that's plugged into this right now, it's being powered not from the mains power, but from its inverter. And then all the mains power is doing is powering the inverter and charging the batteries. And so this has many benefits. First of all, the switch from mains power to inverter power is instant because there's actually no switch at all. When the mains power goes out, the inverter's already running, so there's no switching time. You don't get that brief dip in power that comes with the switch. And yeah, it's absolutely seamless, and extremely sensitive devices will never know that the switch happened. The other benefit is that because power is being supplied from the inverter and not from the mains power, if the mains power is imperfect, if it's, a little bit unstable, your equipment will never know because the UPS is generating its own power all the time that's gonna be perfectly stable, and the voltage will never vary, and the frequency is always perfect, and you are completely protected from the whims of the power company, because the UPS is supplying its own power to the load all the time. On a consumer grade UPS that's line interactive, the load is at the mercy of the power company if the power gets a little bit unstable, because as long as power is being supplied, the UPS is just sitting back and relaxing. It's not providing power to the load. In the case of a UPS that has a built-in voltage regulator like this one does, if the voltage of the mains power exceeds certain thresholds, the UPS will intervene, kick on its voltage regulator, and use its voltage regulator to boost or buck the mains voltage to the load. And when that happens, the load is effectively being powered from the UPS. However, the UPS's AVR is still being powered by the mains power, not the battery power. So if the mains power varies in voltage too much, eventually the UPS will not be able to regulate the voltage with its AVR, and it'll just switch over to battery power completely. But that's the difference. In this guy, being a relatively affordable consumer grade UPS, it's a line interactive UPS. But for just about everything you can imagine, that's totally fine. I've got the PowerPanel Personal software installed. Apparently this UPS is compatible with both the personal and the business version of the software. But it seems fine, you know, it delivers all the same information that you can get from the front panel of the unit. Gives you a summary and a log of power outages. Gives you energy. You can set your how much you pay per kilowatt hour of power, and it'll calculate the power use over a specified time period, which is kind of cool. And you can schedule a bunch of settings. The voltage sensitivity, you can initiate a self-test, stuff like that. And I can't click it lest I show my email server information, but this can connect to your email server and send emails as yourself to notify you when the power goes out, which is really cool, and I've tested that and it does work. But now I've got a little bit of a roadblock here. There's the info panel there, gives you information about the UPS itself. Apparently the UPS can have firmware updates installed, which is kind of cool. So here's the problem. I've tested this by cutting power, and it does indeed hibernate the computer. But the problem is, once the computer is hibernated, then the UPS itself turns itself off, and I don't want it to do that. I want the computer to shut down, but I'd want the UPS itself to stay running because I'm going to have this thing powering possibly everything in this room, with the exception of the stuff you see here on this wall, which I want to power from the vintage back UPS 200. But everything else, the stuff down there, the stuff over here, I think I want everything powered from this UPS. I think it has the capacity from it. It would just be nice to do. So I'd like the UPS to stay running in the event of a power outage. If I'm digitizing a tape or whatever I'm doing, I want it to shut down the computer because the computer is the most power hungry thing in here, but I'd otherwise like it to stay running. But it appears that it may not be capable of doing that. I'm going to cut power here and we'll watch it do its thing. And the computer should go down for hibernation immediately, which it is. And over here it does say time to shut down. And what that means is that's the time before the UPS shuts down. So we'll watch my computer here. And there it goes. Now the first time I did this, the computer turned itself back on, which was kind of odd. I don't know if that's because I moved the mouse accidentally or what happened, but computer's off. And now this thing's going to shut itself down. Even if power comes back on, it will shut itself down. Actually, if I recall, when I turned the power back on, and the computer just turned on. Why did the computer turn back on? That makes no sense. I'm going to turn mains power back on. And mains power is back on, but it it not only turned the computer back on, but it's gonna ungracefully cut power to the computer in 30 seconds. Well, well, well. Time to go in the dark. Good night. And then it says time to turn on, so now it's gonna turn itself back on in 5 seconds. The power to my computer has been ungracefully cut. This behavior makes no sense to me. So it hibernated the computer, woke the computer back up, cut power to the computer, and then turned itself back on. That makes so very little sense to me. I must have something set wrong in the software or something, but how do you set something wrongly enough for this odd behavior? I don't know. I'm going to have to do more research. I suppose the reason the UPS turned itself back on just now is just because the power came back on. So it must stay off until power comes back on, and then it turns itself back on. But I would like it to just not turn itself off to begin with. So I don't know if the PowerPanel Personal program, that's a lot of P's, if that version of the program doesn't do what I want it to do, maybe PowerPanel Business will? So maybe that's my next step. Maybe I try the PowerPanel Business software after my computer recovers from being so rudely treated. Okay, I have installed the PowerPanel Business program, and I figured I better break out the screen recorder to show you everything here, because I think there's a lot more going on naturally than the personal version of the software. So I did find one Reddit post where someone had the same issue I did, and someone else said that indeed PowerPanel Business allows you to shut the computer down but keep the UPS running, because it's a very common way that people want things to work. In my last job as an IT administrator, we had a APC Back UPS Pro, and I had it configured the same way with APC software. It had a computer connected to it that I wanted it to shut down, but I wanted the UPS to stay running because it kept our phone system running, it kept our internet stuff running. So yeah, it's not a unreasonable request at all. So like APC's PowerShoot Business Edition software, this program runs within a web browser. You can see it sets up a local server on your computer, and you have to make an account. And it's kind of aggravating. If you were to install PowerPanel Business and you didn't know anything about it going into it, you would have no idea how to even get into it unless you looked in the manual, which CyberPower provides for this software. There's actually a manual for it. Because when you open PowerPanel Business from the Start menu and it loads up a web browser, you're greeted with a login screen. But I never made an account, and there's no button that says to make an account. So I'll give you a free tip. The default login is admin and admin, and then once you log in, it requests that you change the password for the admin account. So admin, and then you're in. I don't know why they just can't give you the software that I don't know. Maybe it's a security requirement on account of its running from a web server on the computer. Anyway, right off the bat, this is looking a lot cooler than the personal version. We got live readouts of the voltage, frequency, the current output of the UPS, load percentage, as well as watts and volt amps, the battery voltage, the battery capacity, the estimated runtime. It's pretty neat. And we have a log of recent events. And then it shows us some settings, our serial number, firmware version, the type of UPS it is, which is cool, the rating, frequency rating. This is very, very, very cool. Now, if I click locate, is that going to make it beep? I wonder if that's what it does. Yes! Okay, you can, thanks. You can stop now. That was very loud. That's cool. UPS setting, diagnostic, battery test. Okay, just kicked on to the inverter. Processing. Just kicked back on to mains power. There we go. Indicator test. Does this light up the entire display? It does. That's cool. I gotta show you that. Yeah, I'll show you that afterwards for the sake of simplicity. And then an alarm test, which we all know what that's gonna do. I'll click it anyway. Again, that was loud. Runtime estimation. Note, this function just discharges batteries from the current battery capacity to near zero capacity of the current load. The estimated runtime may vary based on the load and level and charge of the batteries when they run. Oh, wow. So it literally just runs it down all the way to... I wonder if it's just giving an estimate, if it really is just an estimation, or is it going to calibrate the readout? Either way, that's cool, although kind of a risky feature to use, since lead acid batteries are not meant to be fully discharged. It kills them quite quickly. So what else do we have? Low battery threshold. Oh, for the, I think that's time remaining. 300 seconds. Yeah, that's 5 minutes. And the battery, set replacement date. So I guess I'll use yesterday, because that's when I put the UPS into service. And we're using the batteries that came with it. Oh yeah, and it says we should replace the batteries 3 years later. Of course, all I'll do is replace them once they stop working. The tolerated, the voltage tolerance. System, cold start enabled, utility power failure alarm disabled. What is cold start? Cold start. Can I search in this? Cold start. Sets the ability of the UPS to start in the absence of input power. When this option is enabled, the UPS can be turned on. Oh, that's actually very nice. And then I saw something about eco mode. Do we finally have a written description of eco mode? The UPS will enter bypass mode according to the utility voltage if it is in range of thresholds or the utility frequency is within 3 Hz of the utility frequency. If the utility voltage or utility frequency exceeds thresholds, the UPS will supply battery power to its loads. Once the UPS sent enter fixed mode, generator mode, or manual bypass, when the UPS is in the eco mode, the UPS will... So all eco mode means is that it's not running on the inverter. It's in bypass mode. The mains power is being fed directly to the load, because of course this is not a double conversion UPS. Although we don't seem to have an option to disable eco mode to begin with. Connected equipment. Oh. Okay. Can I just manually... Yeah, so I can just make a list of what stuff is connected. So we have the scheduled shutdown, just like in the personal software, energy-wise. Well, this is interesting. We have a list of children. I do not know what this is and do not care. Okay, I don't know why it asked me that. Don't know what that is. Network stuff I'm not even going to look at. Notifications. So that's for... Oh, this is cool. So this is the various notifications it can send over email. Notification channels. Yeah, so we have email, XMPP Instant Messenger, SMS. Oh, interesting. So if you paid for, yeah, I read this in the manual. If you pay for some sort of SMS sending service, it will send a text message. Interesting. I'm just going to disable all these just because we are not using them. I will set up the email again later. Can I customize the email notifications? In APC software at my old job, I actually wrote humorous custom messages for like when the power went out. But maybe that's not possible here. Shutdown settings, shutdown events, localhost shutdown requirements, required shutdown time, shutdown type, hibernate, shutdown UPS, no, save files and log out, also no. Advanced. Okay, it looks like you can customize what the computer does based on what's going on. Here's what the indicator test looks like. Wow, what a pretty display. Very nice. All right, I think I've got everything configured here to make the computer go sleepy sleep when the power goes out, but the UPS stays on. So let's find out. I am cutting power. And there it is. Now, is it going to stay off? Hopefully it stays off. Cool. This is the 19th time I've cut power to this thing. It's really getting a thrashing for a brand new UPS, but that's what we're here to do. Well, we appear to be doing what I was hoping it would do, which is excellent. Fantastic. And then power back on. There we go. And computer back on. Excellent. All right, time for the worst case scenario test. I got the computer running folding at home. We're pulling a little over 600 watts. So let's see what this does. And away we go, 6-minute run time. It has begun hibernating. Let's see if it manages to, oh yeah, I would say it's going to manage to hibernate before the battery runs out, because it immediately stopped folding. We're already down to, I would say, probably around 200 watts. Yep. It's amazing how quickly this battery percentage drops. And that's the computer off. Now I am curious, if I turn the computer back on, will it stay on, or will the PowerPanel software trigger it to shut down again? Let's find out. And I would say it's probably gonna stay on. I'll turn the power back on. And there we go. All right, there's one thing left to test, and that's the USB ports. So I've got my USB cable here. Happy Pride! Already plugged into my phone, so I'm just going to plug it in here and I will tell you what my phone does. And my phone says it's charging, and is it fast charging? It is not fast charging, it's only cable charging, although I'll see if I can find a USB-C cable, see if that's any different. I found a USB-C cable plugged into my phone, and by golly, it's quick charging. That is impressive. Although I guess I say quick charge, but I keep forgetting that fast charging is just inherent to USB-C. Quick charge is really a thing with just USB-A, but it's a built-in feature of USB-C right from the start. But the important thing is, it's doing it. So it's actually capable of supplying more than just 5 volts, 2 amps, which is great. And the question is, will it keep charging when the power goes out? Let's find out. And yes, my phone is continuing to charge. Perfect. Well, I think that is all there is to show of the CyberPower 1500 volt amp sine wave UPS model CP1500PFCLCD uninterruptible power supply. And I gotta say, I love this thing. I think this thing's a hit. We've really put it through its paces in today's video, and it did just fine. And according to the event counter, we cut power to this thing 41 times over the course of this video, which honestly is the number of power outages that a lot of UPSs might see in their entire lifetime. So I think we did a good job putting this thing through its paces. We loaded it up, worked just fine. The PowerPanel software seems to work great. I do recommend using the PowerPanel Business edition and not the PowerPanel Personal edition. The mute function seems to work as expected. The ability to shut down the computer seems to work as expected once you have the business version of the PowerPanel software. I love the color LCD display. I love the detail of the information uh, 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 presented on the display. And yeah, it's easy to use. The USB ports are nice. The USB-C actually fast charges. It's a very, very nifty piece of equipment. And for 280 bucks Canadian, I would say it is pretty good. And people in general I've read reports of these things being pretty reliable for the people who have them. And I am looking forward to hooking everything into this one, putting it into use. I'll have to put it over here, tidy this up, and then I can get this powerware out of here. As nice of a UPS it is, and it'll probably still be working long after this thing dies, I'll be glad to get it out of here. It's huge, it's heavy, it's meant to be mounted in a rack, it's noisy, so yeah, I'll be glad to replace it with this guy. I think this UPS and I think we'll get along just fine. So yeah, so far, first impressions, excellent, and I recommend it, and hopefully it will continue to work for at least a few years to come, and I'll be able to continue to recommend it. So there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. A big thanks to the people who choose to support the channel through Patreon. It is in part through their donations that I'm able to afford stuff like this, not only to put into actual use, but to be able to showcase it and demonstrate it for everyone in these videos. So I really appreciate the people who choose to do that. It helps me do this stuff. And to everyone else, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Get in. Come on. There's a good girl. Good girl. All right.